Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing another movie review for you all. This movie is a horror film from Serbia. This is spoken in the English and Serbian language with English subtitles, released in the year 2024, directed by Austin Jennings. This film is called Eight Eyes. So Eight Eyes is about an American couple. They're travelling through the Balkans and they want to experience new things, and they experience a new thing by going to a Serbian wedding. So they've gate crashed this wedding, which the people don't mind, and this is where they're starting to learn a thing or two about culture. But then they realise that they have come across another opportunity to experience new things when a Macedonian man comes up to them and says that he can make their holiday even more interesting by coming to Skopje with him and letting him show them about his country. And so the history surrounding the country and also the sights. And so they believe that this is an opportunity good to refuse. They follow him to Skopje, but this is the start of their nightmare because there's a lot more to this man than they first thought. So what happens is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on Eight Eyes. It really pains me to say it, but if I'm brutally honest, this was a really mediocre horror film. And the reason why it pains me to say it is because it really shouldn't have been. If it was handled a lot better, this could have been a very effective little movie. So the movie is an ode to exploitation grindhouse films. And so if you like movies from the 1970s that exploited things, that made you feel very dirty, then the way that this movie looks is actually quite effective. It does have that 1970s feel. It is set during the present day, which gives the film a strong level of quirkiness that I actually really liked. It was a very strange world that Austin Jennings managed to create in Eight Eyes that actually captivated me to the point where I wanted to see where this movie was going to go. And so that was a plus, that the production was very, very competent. And I will say right at the end, it does go very crazy, and this is where the exploitative sort of material really starts to kick in. But unfortunately, that's where the positives stop, and this is where the negatives begin. The film just has absolutely nothing going for it. The characters are non-existent. Now, yes, it's an exploitation horror film. You don't need great characters. It's all about the exploitative sort of material. But unfortunately, there's not enough exploitative material in this movie to keep it going. The film just treads familiar water for 95% of the runtime, and so you feel as though you're exhausted by the time the draw card comes into effect, and it's already way too late by that stage. So the whole film had a lot of interesting aspects. You know, the Balkans, you're torn apart by war. The movie does mention the war, and I thought as though if the war was actually used in the movie a lot more, it could have actually made it a really good experience. It actually could have made it very interesting, because it is something that was so horrific. To throw it into a horror film I thought would have been a really good idea, but they just mention the war. They don't really evolve that idea and that possibility and the potential in a way that I thought as though it was satisfactory. There are other moments where I thought as though the settings could have created something quite claustrophobic, but it just doesn't go full throttle. It doesn't really go for the jugular. It just wanders around and it wants to impress you with the last quarter, but there's absolutely no build up to that last quarter, and so there's no impact. So yes, it is quite nasty, yes, it is very, very strange, but it just doesn't work because it's getting up to that point. So if it had a staircase where it evolves itself and it's going up levels to that stage, I thought it would have been a lot better, but the film just doesn't have any content going for it. And so you have to have a lot of exploitative material in an exploitation horror film to make it work, but this movie just doesn't have that. I felt as though it was all a facade. The facade of an exploitation horror film, but underneath it just doesn't know how to be that exploitation horror film. And so it's an ode and a homage to exploitation movies from the 1970s. It felt like Austin Jennings was a fan of these movies, but he just didn't know how to emulate the true essence of an exploitation horror film to make it an effective experience. And so it was really, really boring. I thought the acting was quite mediocre. The bad guys in the film were quite mediocre. It was really trying hard to disturb you to a point where it did become a little bit comical. And so that was something that I didn't like. It is fairly nasty, but it's just getting up to that last quarter. The craziness and all of that sort of stuff that you expect from a horror film just doesn't work, because it's just getting up to that stage that just feels like an absolute chore. You're worn out by the time you get there, and unfortunately it is far too late to save this movie. So overall, very, very mediocre. If you are a fan of 1970s exploitation, then this film looks good, but unfortunately it just doesn't really deliver anything else. So overall, I'm going to give this one 1.5 stars, not coming recommended. Alright guys, that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later.